peaceful people, welcome back to Film and Photography with Miss A. We're starting a brand new unit today about silent films. I can't wait to share with you the wonderful world of the silver screen and the birthplace of Hollywood. Our class objectives today are to recognize the importance of the silent film era and its impact on film and photography, to compare the different forms of communication and explain ways to communicate without words, and to plan and create your own silent film. Let's dive in. So what is a silent film? A silent film is a film without dialogue, but not without sound. Wait, what? Let me read that again. A film without dialogue, but not without sound? Why is it called a silent film then? What does this mean? Well, during the era of silent films, people would go to the theater, and these films were accompanied by live music. There was typically a piano player or an organ player, and in some bigger cities, an entire orchestra would play. Music was considered an essential part of the viewing experience. But how did anyone have any idea of what was going on? The actors had to be good nonverbal communicators. But even the actors had a little bit of help. Often directors would add title cards to the film to push along the plot. The silent era lasted from 1894 to 1929. It was full of artistic expression and artistic movements, such as the classic Hollywood movement, French Impressionism, German Expressionism, and Soviet montage. All of these different forms of directing and storytelling had their own aesthetic or beauty and has paved the way for modern filmmaking. In the movie industry, it's important to know the terminology of different genres. The silent films were often dramas, romances, epics, or comedies, also known as slapstick. A drama is considered an exciting, emotional, or unexpected series of events or circumstances. Romances involve a love story. Epics date back to poems and novels. It's a genre that focuses on a heroic character and their journey to their destiny. Today, they may be known more as action movies or blockbusters. Some examples of epics are Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, or Titanic. Lastly, we have comedy. During the silent film era, they used a form of comedy known as slapstick. This is a type of physical comedy where there's mild comic violences, such as the main character banging their head or falling down. Remember, the people in these films were just acting, and no one was actually harmed. Let's dive into communication. As previously mentioned, actors in the silent film industry had to be good nonverbal communicators. But what is communication? Communication is the exchanging of information. You can either send or receive information. The way that you do this is through verbal, written, or nonverbal cues. Verbal and written communication is a language to communicate by listening or reading. But what if you don't speak the same language as someone? Nonverbal cues can be just as effective when communicating. These cues include facial expression, body language, and sign language. Body language is considered an umbrella term for these nonverbal cues. It can include facial expression as well as physical movement. Another way that you can describe body language is your use of space. If you like someone, perhaps you might sit closer to them. Facial expressions are the movements of the face that convey or tell an emotional state. For example, when you smile, it expresses happiness. When you roll your eyes, it might express annoyance. Lastly, let's talk about sign language. Sign language is exactly as it sounds. It's an entire language based off of different hand gestures. Sign language has its own grammar and slang words, and it varies in different parts of the world. Let's play a quick game. Take a look at this clip from a silent film. What do you think is happening in this scene? What do you think is his message? When I look at this, I think the man has come up with an evil plan. I think this based on his nonverbal cues. He throws his head back and has uncontrollable laughter while shaking his hand. How about this image? What is she feeling? Again, we can figure a few things out based on the scene. First, we know it's nighttime or that she's in a dark place because she's holding a candle. Based on her facial expressions, we can tell that maybe at first she's shocked because her eyes get big, and then she's scared because she opens her mouth as if to scream. It can be difficult to communicate effectively. Miscommunication is a common reason people experience conflict. It's important to deliver your messages in a positive way, even if the message itself is negative. Here are some examples of positive ways to communicate. One of the most important ways you can become a good communicator is through listening skills. Listening and interpreting what someone is saying is just as important as speaking. Listening to another person's point of view of an experience can help you understand how and why they feel the way they do. Don't worry, you will also have your time to speak, so be respectful and don't interrupt. Be clear and concise with your message. If there seems to be confusion with your message, clarify and restate your main points. If you are communicating in conflict, try to avoid placing blame on anyone. Simply explain in the most neutral way your feelings. If possible, try to be positive throughout the situation. You might include something like, "I really value you as a friend, but this bothered me because." Now back to silent films. Before silent films, inventors such as Thomas Edison worked on projecting images. If you think back to our animation unit, we discussed the invention of the kinetoscope, a device designed for moving images to be viewed by one individual at a time through a peephole at the top of the device. In fact, Thomas Edison's company, Edison Studios, was the first to produce silent films. The Great Train Robbery was released in 1903 and was 12 minutes long. Who spotted a clip of this film earlier in the video? By the late 1920s and into the 1930s, film technology advanced to produce sound in films. The earliest sound film was produced in 1927 and was called The Jazz City. From that point on, movies became known as talkies, or talking picture shows. From the 1930s right up through the 1950s came a period of cinematography known as film noir. Film noir, which literally means dark or black film in French, is another genre of movies that focuses on a mood of distrust, fatalism, and danger. Film noir had intricate plots and frequent uses of flashbacks. Okay guys, I brought back the storyboard for this unit as well. It's so important whenever you're making a film to plan ahead. So if you have a printer, go ahead and print out this sheet of paper. If not, you can make your own at home. Just remember that storyboards are a great tool to help you plan out your plot. It can be a great tool if you don't know exactly what you're doing. Go ahead and print out a couple extra. That way you can play around with some different ideas. So now you have your storyboard, you have your plot, and now it's time to create. Grab your family members to be your actors and go ahead and get to work.
Want to see more amazing videos? Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.